up? I'm now in North Carolina, Outer Banks. Unfortunately not here for vacation. I'm on Roanoke Island, home of the Lost Colony. I'm at Festival Park and gonna check this place out. All right, tour begins. $11.50 for a ticket to let you know. And I'm gonna do the outdoor portion first and then check out the museum. So it looks like they've got an Indian village. You can climb aboard the Elizabethan ship, and there's the English settlement. And over here, looks like some crops that were grown by the local natives. Corn, beans, and squash, known as the Three Sisters. They were often grown together. They would aid each other. I know the beans provided nitrogen to the soil. And I know growing them together somehow keeps weeds away. Anyway, the watch house and palisade walls. These were used both by the natives and the European settlers. And pretty much trees. These are palisade, this big fence here, tree posts. And this is circular. You enter right here. And very similar to the one at Henricus. Keep a look. And a woodpecker. Yeah, well, that's what a woodpecker sounds like. Yeah, corn was the big one around here. The watch house, and these were set up by the local natives. Young Algonquin boys would stand guard over the fields, over the gardens, scare off birds, small animals. All right. First thing is the American Indian town. So here we are. I guess I'm gonna cut right, check out this American Indian town. I'll walk around, hit the boat, like I say, the English settlement, and then I'll go in the museum. So yeah, I've been wanting to come out here for a while. I read a book on the Lost Colony, if you want to call it that, back over the winter, and wanted to see what this place was all about. And yeah, a bunch of the Algonquin speaking tribes living in the area. The Sequentin actually lived here on Roanoke Island. And the Croatoan, the other big one, they lived on Hatteras Island. So yeah, drying out some fish here. And Indian women actually grew the crops, did the cooking. Back here, this Twinkie looking thing is one of their longhouses. Oops. And this would be the leader's house. Okay, so it looks like the local chief would be Gran Ganimio. Alright, looks like a lot of maybe trading would go on in here. And yeah, the Indians, they loved metal. And yeah, there's a lot of interactive things to touch. And you can learn the Algonquin word for beans, deer. Looks like they show little So little films in here, Through the Eyes of Strangers. Yeah, and the settlers had befriended two Indians, Manteo and Wanchis. They learned to speak English. They went back to England with that first expedition. Okay, so back here, this looks like the same sign I saw earlier, and I guess we're still in this American Indian town. So I'll see what's back here. Some pottery. Cordage, looks like made some cords. Some rope, and this would kind of be a dance circle. Yeah.
Great Bear. It is the job of our warriors to protect the country.
It's how to build a longhouse. I guess they use some of that cordage.
There we see in the stars the shape of Manguahayan, the Great Bear. Long ago, they say,
and this is a famous John White painting
Great Bear was so large
of the village.
Could swallow a lodge with one goat. It was a great danger to the people.
All right, the Elizabeth II coming up to the right. And this Elizabeth II, it's one of the 7 ships that came over on the second expedition, and it's actually one of the smaller ships. The Tiger was the largest. It was 4 times bigger than this one. Yeah, then 2 other fairly large ones. And I think that I'd heard 2 of the ships their names weren't even recorded. They were so small, and I think they were actually towed over. But anyway, I know this bay here, it leads into the Roanoke Sound. Looks like you can walk through the marsh over there. And yeah, imagine being stuck on this thing for 3 months. They did make several stops. They would usually stop off the Canary Islands, kind of off the coast of Africa. They would shoot across the Atlantic to the Caribbean, stop off at a couple islands, and then follow the Gulf Current up to North Carolina. I don't know what flag that is. English flag up there.
We got the saws and the chisels and you don't need
going
to
below
see where
deck.
the ship's going to steer. You're just steering on the compass, following the compass. All types of barrels.
See some gun ports over here.
You may see one that's called a butt. That's a butt. It's 160 gallons, a lot of gallons.
All right, this is where they would raise the anchor. And the generals would sleep back here. Yeah, as I said, 50 people. So I imagine they had cots here, maybe hammocks hanging down. Play some dominoes, some backgammon. Play some poker. Here's some of the guns back there. And apparently, I thought all these barrels were just called hogshead, but apparently they have different names for the different sizes. And this is where you do the cooking, the galley, I guess. And this is where you pump out the excess water below. And yeah, they let you touch everything, which is super cool.
At this point, they hadn't invented the steering wheel yet. They hadn't even thought about it. So you had to stick. You can ring the bell, go around the other side. Go around the back side. There you go. That way you don't fall head first at me here.
I mean, who needs a wheel when you got a stick?
Right? Left, right. Pretty simple. I mean, you know.
Huh.
Wind does most of the work.
You climb the mast. And this is some sort of gun or what's left of a gun. And use this to scare off pirates. And he said it was good for 50 to 60 yards. And this pole here was used for steering. And the captain was the only one to have his own room. Some sort of compass right there.
Only April.
Okay. Bunch of ropes. Mug. A little storage area. And
A little bit compared to yesterday and the day before.
cool, the Elizabeth II. And the guy told me, he told me that green flag was just kind of Queen Elizabeth's flag. The green and white just represented the Tudor family, and the little cross just represents England. And he says that they do take that ship out. They take it up and down the Sound and kind of just show it off at festivals and events. So, pretty cool. All right, so English settlement back here. But yeah, this would be it. This is actually where Virginia began. Of course, first English settlement. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful. All right, back here looks like a blacksmith.
But you gotta let that knee high so you get a full turn, or else you get a half carved leg. There you go.
She's lathing some wood. Pretty,
she apparently
pretty neat.
found more lucrative work. Yes. Well, right now we're busy with school tours. We had 100 kids earlier today. Yesterday we had 300 kids.
And back here you've got an Elizabethan Pharmacy. A little apothecary station. And a bunch of herbs, and you got some leeches right there. Yeah, alfalfa, basil. Some armor. Pretty cool. All right, see what this guy's making.
Stand back like this.
Nail, it looks like.
You can make. How many do you think a master smith can make in a day's time? All he does is he'll take it, and once he's got it nice hot, he'll go ahead, bring it over here, and he'll taper it out to a point like this, hammer it out, get it tapered, like this. And then once he's got it there, he'll go ahead and measure the length of the nail with his header, see how long he wants it to be. Once he finds that, he will score it where he wants to end it. Right, score it there with the hardy tool. After that, he'll bend it off and break it in the header, then he'll hammer out the head onto it in the header. And after that, of course, he doesn't just pop it in his hand because that's still a good 800 degrees or more. He'll go ahead and crunch it in the bucket there. But after that, you can pop it, you just crunch it in there, stops hissing at you, you can pretty much put it in your hand and you're fine. Time it took me to tell you that, you could do in 30 seconds.
Well, that's how you make nails. Alright, over here are some fishing nets. They would put these out in the sound, fish would get caught in between. They go back out at low tide, scoop them up, and it looks like they were called fishing weirs. Yeah, trap fish. And this is one of their dugout canoes. They didn't have iron tools, so they would actually burn the trees to have them cut down or taken down. Then they would burn the log and they would take shells, scrape out the ash to create these canoes. And yeah, some of these were up to 50 feet long, could hold 40 passengers. So, and over here it looks like another one of the John White paintings. All right, that's it. I'm gonna go in and check out the museum, and pretty nice setup here. About the same size maybe as Henricus, if anybody's familiar with that. That's the second English settlement that stuck further up the James River, getting close to Richmond. Anyway, so and yeah, I wasn't thinking I would need sunscreen out here in April, but back of my neck already getting red. Pull. All right, made it. And the Elizabeth II, one of the ships that went over on the second voyage. Here's a map of the area. Roanoke Island up there on the left. Sequentin Village. And everybody's arriving with open arms. Here we go. Age of Exploration. And pretty good painting up there, pretty revealing painting. And the Elizabeth II again, bigger model. And a famous painting. He's the one who led, he came over on the second expedition, but he led the third expedition. He was an artist. And this is, again, Sequentin Village, all the longhouses. And one of their giant gardens over here. The dance circle down there. All right, Christopher Columbus, Sir Walter Raleigh. So it looks like this is just going through just all the exploration over to the New World. All the big players, Sir Walter Raleigh, Queen Elizabeth. And like I say, this place is really interactive. It looks like kids can kind of try these clothes on. And yeah, you had these sumptuary laws back then that the lower class had to wear the drab, bland garments, and the upper class would wear the more colorful clothing. Yeah, it's something I guess a commoner might wear. Or is this, I don't know if it's an Indian thing, I don't know, but yeah, Spanish wealth. Spanish were the kings back in the 1500s. They were the world power, and they'd gotten rich from pretty much taking all the gold from Central and South America And of course, obviously, we all know Christopher Columbus, who was an Italian sailor. And actually, Italy hadn't become a country yet. He was a Genoese. He was one of the merchants there on the Mediterranean. And French exploration, again, Giovanni Verrazzano, he again was Italian. I think he was from Florence. And he was hired by the French to come over and scout out the actual continental United States. He scouted out from, I think he first landed Cape Fear, and he went all the way up to New Brunswick. And he famously bypassed the Chesapeake Bay, didn't even realize it was there. So yeah, and the British were late to the game. And Queen Elizabeth wanted in on the action. And it was after the Spanish-English War that kind of the tides turned and England became the world power. Mechanical vices, of course, used to load cargo, and the sea currents. The common route is you pretty much made a circle. If you were leaving London or Spain back then, you would shoot kind of south. I guess this is called the Canary Current, but yeah, you take this current south, you would stop at the Canary Islands, kind of take a bath, maybe get something to eat, and then you shoot across for the long leg over to the Caribbean. Again, you get out, stretch your legs, clean up, then you take the Gulf Stream up to North Carolina or the Chesapeake Bay, and then they would take the Gulf Stream and shoot back to Europe. And yeah, the Gulf Stream was great because even if the wind wasn't blowing, the current would kind of put you along real slow. And also the fish and everything, all the sea life would follow the current as well. Okay, we're in the bowels of a ship. And I guess the wind patterns, and looks like these are all the voyages over. And looks like you can sit down and watch a movie, and the voyages. So yeah, there's actually kind of a long story with the whole settlement. There were actually 3 settlements, I guess you could say. And what happened is that, like I said, Queen Elizabeth wanted in on the action. She wanted to settle the New World, partly to find gold, furs, timber, trade with the natives, but partly and mostly to actually so she could pirate the Spanish. Yeah, and there was kind of a Cold War going on before the big Spanish-English War. And, yeah, so it was a way to kind of stick it to the Spanish. And so Sir had gotten the deed, the grant, had gotten permission to settle. And he actually never came over here. He did in his younger days kind of explore, came to the New World up in what is now Canada. But he sent these guys. Queen Elizabeth was kind of weird. She didn't want him to leave. She was supposedly a virgin, but she had all these like boy toys, all these guys she wanted around. The Earl of Leicester, Sir Walter Raleigh. It was kind of weird. But anyway, so he sent these guys, Barlow and Amadas, over as kind of a reconnaissance to find a good base, basically, to pirate. And they decided on North Carolina, the Outer Banks here, because they could kind of hide out in these shoals. And as I had said, that current would shoot up that Gulf Stream. So they would fatten up their ships with gold, kind of come up, and they could kind of hide out and see them coming and jump out and attack. Yeah, but they had good relations with the Indians, with the natives, and they took 2 of them back. They took this guy Manio and Wanchese. They were strong, healthy, young Indians. They took them back to England to kind of show off, like, hey, this is a good place to live. These guys are well fed. Also, so they could learn English. So that was a success. And so Queen Elizabeth, she gave permission, or I guess Sir Walter Raleigh, to come back for a big settlement. And this time it was all men. Again, it was kind of a military type, kind of a military-based settlement. And he sent Richard Grenville over. This guy, Ralph Lane, was second in charge. Sent them over 600 people, 7 ships. But when they came, the largest ship called the Tiger got stuck on one of the shoals. It was carrying like 300 and some people, and they had to throw all the food overboard. They threw horses overboard to get the ship unstuck. And so Richard Grenville ended up having to go back to England. Took 400 or 500 people with him because only 100 and some stayed. And yeah, so the 100 and some stayed were now led by that Ralph Lane. And he was a strict military man. And he spoiled the relations with the natives. And yeah, tension quickly grew because the settlers had run low on food. They kind of wore out their welcome. The natives had left Roanoke Island, went back to the mainland. Some of the natives had started to die of disease. They didn't realize that. They thought that the English were putting some sort of spell on them. I read that they thought they were shooting invisible arrows into them to kill them. So they went back to the island, and Lane had gotten paranoid. He thought they were planning an attack, which they might have been. But and at some point, a silver cup was stolen from the settlers. And then Ralph Lane just went crazy. He went over and pretty much burned their fields, killed a bunch of people. They ended up killing the chief, put his head on a pike. So yeah, it kind of ruined relations. But luckily for the colonists, coincidentally, Sir Francis Drake, who first guy to go around the world without stopping. Anyway, he had just burned down St. Augustine. He was on his way back, and he was just happened to be going by. Stopped off to see what was going on, and Ralph Lane was like, get this out of here, basically. So pretty much everybody hopped aboard except 3 guys that were out on some sort of foraging, hunting expedition. They got left behind. They were never heard from again. So yeah, he went back to England. And then the 3rd expedition, this is the one people are most familiar with. This was led by John White, the artist who painted a lot of this stuff. He was on the 2nd expedition. He came back with women and children this time. He came back with his wife, his daughter. He came back with like 105-ish people settled. Yeah, so after a short period of time, they began to run a little bit low on supplies, and they elected for John White to go back to England and resupply. And when he got back to England, there was that Spanish-English war going on. The Queen had to use all the ships necessary, so he couldn't catch a ride back. He tried several times. Nothing really ever worked out. Finally, 3 years later, he basically hitched a ride with some pirates. Came back, and that's when it's famously, everybody knows, he came back to an empty settlement, and he saw the words Croatoan written on the palisades and the word CRO written on a tree. And to him, it wasn't a mystery. He was like, oh, they went down to Croatoan Island because I had told them before I'd left, if anything goes down, to tell me where you're going to be headed if you end up leaving. And if you're in any sort of trouble, put a cross next to it. But there was no cross next to Croatoan on the palisade. So he went back to England and never saw his family again. And one thing also I'll mention, while that 3rd settlement was there, Virginia Dare was born. She was the first English child born in the New World. So yeah, so he had left his wife, his daughter, and his granddaughter. Never saw him again. All right, Jamestown Fort, King James down there. And yeah, Blackbeard was he was hunted down. He was captured, killed, and beheaded just a little south of the Outer Banks here. And he was actually tracked down by a group that was funded by Alexander Spotswood. For any of you Virginia people watching, he had basically put a hit out on him because he was pirating ships, leaving the Chesapeake Bay area. And most famously, he would burn his beard, light it on fire. And there's the Richard Grenville I was talking about, led that 2nd expedition. Again, a really flamboyant guy. All right, over here, a little Civil War setup. A 32-pound solid shot cannonball. And looks like a little army tent. So the Battle of Roanoke Island. This occurred shortly after Fort Sumner was taken. And Confederates had stationed 3,000 troops on the island to defend it. and then it was eventually attacked by General Burnside, Fredericksburg fame or infamy, I guess. And yeah, he landed 7,500 men and eventually took the island. And this small victory is what helped prompt to have him appointed head general before Fredericksburg. And yeah, a lot of action going on here. I guess those are the troops landing, I guess. Yeah, so once the island was under Union control, it became a freedmen's colony, and a lot of slaves fled to the island for refuge. And by the end of the war, roughly 3,500 former slaves lived on the island. Yeah, set up churches, schools. All right, over here, is this the Revolutionary? Well, there wouldn't be 50 stars, I guess. What is this? Wife in camp. But yeah, another army tent down here. You could play some dominoes. Crab pots down here. It looks like it's just some local commercial fishing. Okay, it looks like this area has to do with a lot of fishing, hunting. A life-saving station. Natural disasters. Of course, this place gets hit with hurricanes a lot. And this is the Roanoke Marshes Lighthouse. You can visit that. Pretty big swordfish. Some decoy ducks. I don't know anything about this. I guess the idea is you float them in the water and it attracts other ducks. And again, this place is really interactive. A good place to take kids, it looks like. You can shoot the ducks up there. Elizabeth II boat shop. So yeah, this whole side just must have to do with the industry here on the islands. And some shipbuilding, kind of woodworking tools. Another model, even bigger, of the Elizabeth II, it looks like. Yeah, duck hunting. Looks like some sort of amphitheater back here. Not much to look at, I guess. There's a little pier down there. All Alright guys, that was Festival Park, Roanoke Island. And good place to visit if you're down here vacationing. Like I say, tickets are $11. I'll also let you know you can visit Fort Raleigh, not too far from here. I think admission actually is free to that one. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to get out of here. And as always, if you like these kinds of videos, you can like and subscribe, and see ya.